Oh my god, look at your screen. Is that a bird? Is it a plane? Nah, it's just Dilly. And I'm finally here with the lore video y'all were asking for, so without further ado, how about we kick back, grab some snacks, and listen to a story about the darkest family in all of DBD. Kazan Yamaoka, or the Oni, was introduced to Dead by Daylight on December 3rd, 2019, 3 years after the game's release. The Oni is a blood-hungry brute with an appetite for blood and the uncanny ability to track those who run in fear. Following their blood orbs, Kazan absorbs their energy and uses it to chase after you at Mach Jesus like a rabid dog, and the only difference being that he's about 6'5" and 450 pounds of pure pride and anger. Kazan wasn't raised this way though. He was raised to follow a code, the Bushido code of samurai. His father tried to instill its values in Kazan's early life, but bro's pride knows no end. He could care less for some bullshito code. He could see his very culture thinning before him, farmers playing dress up with the very uniforms many had died in before. He resented his father for the prideless coward he was. Always preaching to him to be humble and calm only made his anger burn hotter. No matter how much his father tried to change Kazan's ways. So on some real Black Air Force shit, he throws his father's teachings to the wind, steals his father's sword, and goes to town. Bro is literally on a mission to crash out in public like he ain't getting TikTok views. The killings begin, eliminating the very imposters his father protected without a glimpse of mercy. The bullshito code, a distant memory at this point. Bro wanted all the smoke, picking fights everywhere he went. The mountains, the valleys, for real, if he could, this motherfucker probably throw hands with Batman. Bro probably got smoke with the Super Friends. There ain't a single name safe from his list, I'm telling you, and he would prove it too. Every killing more brutal than the last, and he thought it was funny, hitting Fortnite emotes after every kill, barking like a dog, teabagging village bodies, warriors and villagers alike. To Kazan, there was no difference in the weak, his insatiable bloodlust controlling his every move. The monks could see the darkness within Kazan, so like some white girls at Starbucks, they get to gossiping to the head shorty about the dark curse upon the demon of the lands, Oni Yamaoka, the rageful samurai. But let me tell you, was Kazan mad when he heard this? Fueled even more by his burning rage, bro slips his forces back on and starts running, determined to redeem his family name, brutally slaying any who dare utter the words, Oni Yamaoka. The very insult baffled him. He had spent all this time eliminating the whole country of all farmers and all samurai who crossed his path, effectively eliminating the majority of Japan's military and food resources, defeating the weak and strong alike, any who stepped in his way slain and left aside like nothing, never to be seen by their families again. You know, starting to see why they didn't like this guy. I don't know. Maybe it's because he walked onto an active battlefield and killed the strongest on both sides and then went on his way. Maybe it was when he killed hundreds of people with a stolen bat. Maybe it was his need to collect a trophy from every victim. Whatever it was, it didn't matter because at this point, bro was long gone. Hearing an ominous voice in his head telling him to kill the very lord who tarnished his name. He needs to wipe out the head shorty. Personally, I don't think he needed the extra push, but he wasn't going to say no. But just as Kazan and his Black Air Forces got to the Lord's town, an unknown samurai stands before him. Masked up, shiesty and all. Kazan been through this before. He knows when a motherfucker want to smoke, so he squares up. And I'm talking sturdy. The samurai, without a single word, just starts swinging for the fences, beating the bricks off this man. Quickly taking control of the exchange, but that goofy goober's softer than a bag of marshmallows because he couldn't finish the job. One simple stutter and movement and that's all Kazan needed. He caught a whiff of the final thread and hit that samurai with the biggest bonk of the 16th century. Connection so clean it crushes the samurai's helmet. As Kazan begins to Fortnite emote on the samurai, he saw the man's face through the broken mask and stops the instant he realized that it was his father he had slain. He looks down in regret. And now is probably a good time to point out there still ain't a single crease in them shoes. Like, bro might be a bad guy in the story, but I mean, he's not a total monster. And he looked at them shoes till his dad's last breath. And in light of his shame and regret, Kazan looks to the sky, howling in agony until he could scream no more. And when he opened his eyes, it was over. His father was gone. Not only had he killed his father, but he had allowed some hoodlums to hit a devious ass lick, stealing the whole body and all of the armor that came with it. At this point, bro just starts tripping, walking aimlessly. He hears his father's voice berating him about how if he just did his chores as a kid, did the dishes, taking out the trash, this all could have been avoided. But no, Kazan's too cool. This constant nagging sends Kazan into uncontrollable fits of rage. One day as he walked through the forest, Kazan comes across an Oni statue. He stopped there, motionless, looking up at the statue, weathered and overgrown. It was almost as if the statue itself was scolding him, accusing him of being the very imposter that he sought to destroy. Kazan rights himself, shaking the laughing voice as he remembers the lord who ridiculed him as Oni Yamaoka. The memory festers, renewing his anger. Kazan trudges up the snowy mountains where the head shorty, lord, lived. But as he neared the village, 12 of the lord's strongest stood at the gates. Those same dozen couldn't handle the smoke. His speed and strength were unmatched, his rage incomprehensible. Covered in blood, he just kept swinging, crushing all in his path as he walked through town. Kazan finally found the feudal lord, hiding in his villa. He dragged him out of the cabinet he cowered in and sliced his tendons, watching him squirm and beg like the dog he was, but no amount of begging or bribery was going to stop Kazan as he thrust his hand into the lord's mouth, ripping up the very tongue that desecrated his name before, his thirst for blood finally fulfilled. Kazan exited the villa and found himself surrounded by the whole village, wielding anything they could, rusted scythes, clubs, pitchforks. Kazan looked out at them in disbelief. They really thought that they could beat him after all that he had done? He'd show them, and so it started, an all-out assault, bodies flying left and right, men, women, and children alike, all out here getting their licks. Kazan survived the first few assaults, but the attackers kept coming, wearing him down by sheer numbers like it's Algebra 2. Within minutes, the algebraic formulas had bro on the ground, staring at a cold and indifferent sky as he tried to calculate the slope of his fall. As the farmers took turns stabbing at the Oni who had butchered all those before. Man, I'm pretty sure I saw a little kid take the same forces off his feet. Still no creases, by the way. Regardless, they started dragging his dead body to a small stone mill, taking TikTok videos with his dying body like they was Logan Paul or some shit, finally leaving him to die a slow and agonizing death. But as they returned to the village, an eerie black fog rolled into the mill, enveloping Kazan's body in Kanabo, never to be found again. It was the beginning of a dark legend about a rageful Oni haunting the town, and maybe more. Rin Yamaoka, or the Spirit, is another one of 37 killers that roam the fog of Dead by Daylight. Released in September 2018, 2 years after the game's release, Rin is the great-granddaughter of the legendary Oni. And as the kid that was always put in the front of the class because of my brothers before me, I don't think it's fair to judge Rin by the evil within her bloodline, so let's go take a look at what will probably be a completely normal and loving family dynamic. Unlike me, Rin was an only child, so she got all the good gifts every time Christmas came around, never having to worry about faking surprise for socks. And even more unlike me, she took a diligent effort to her studies at Takamatsu, a prestigious private university in their village of Kagawa. But like me, Rin's family was poor, and this school weighed heavily on their finances. On top of that, Rin's mother got sick. Understanding this, Rin picked up a part-time job at Bojangles to help with the struggle, but she must have kept that Bojangle money to herself because her father continued to face a growing debt. He started pulling doubles in hopes of getting a promotion, losing countless hours of sleep. Bro started talking to the Shadow Man at night, losing it for real. Hours of sleep lost him, kicking his feet, giggling, talking to the Shadow Man through DS Picto chat as he loses his grip on reality. The Shadow Man's agenda darkens, telling him hard truths about him being a brokey and a scrub, honorless and doomed to fall right into his grandpappy Kazan's footsteps. Rin's father does his best to shake the Shadow Man's voice and goes to work the next day to meet with his boss, explaining his situation, shamelessly begging for any help possible, even offering to throw it back for a few extra bucks on his next paycheck. But the boss don't give a damn. Even after making Rin's father throw it back, he explains that even though he's been pulling doubles and putting blood, sweat, and tears into his work, the company has been losing a lot of money because of a bad product. and they need a scapegoat, with Rin's father fitting the bill perfectly. They dropped his ass like a sack of potatoes after 22 years of service. Rin's father thinks to all the things the Shadow Man said, and that night, as Rin is leaving work, she hears a blood-curdling scream from her mother. She tosses her bike to the side and breaks to a sprint like Usain Bolt, busts into the house like the FBI, parkour through the crib on some Mirror's Edge shit, till suddenly she stops. Bits and pieces of her mother spread across the floor of her parents' room, cut up and contorted like the girl from The Exorcist. Rin gagged at the sight. Just then a katana came crashing down. Rin hits a Steven Seagal, trying to block the sword with her arm, and as it comes in contact, it cuts into the bone. Rin screamed in pain, realizing that she's not Kevin from Ben 10, as she looks before her to see her father, katana in hand with a stoic expression. As his daughter pleaded for mercy, he finished his cut, going through her arm again. Rin slips on the blood-smeared floor, raising herself up with the door, as the katana ripped through the wall, cleaving off her other arm. She screams in pain as she hits the stanky leg, trying to escape, only to be met once again by her father's blade. She holds her hanging flesh as she trembles before her father. Images of her mother's dead body flash before her eyes, fueling her with that Yamaoka rage. She remembers all the days she had to go to work after school because of her brokey scrub dad. All those times he said she couldn't go out to Starbucks with girls. The vision breaks, and even after Rin was literally unarmed, she charges her father, making him stumble back after slapping him with her nubs. But he retaliates by slashing her thigh as she balanced herself, making Rin collapse to the floor as she crawled to the stairs. He grabbed her by the hair, throwing her across the room into the partition. Glass shatters on impact as she falls to the floor below. Like some sort of evil Batman movie, her father disappears, leaving only the sound of his footsteps. As Rin attempts to move, worming through a sea of broken glass, she burns with anger and fury at her father's actions. He had to be stopped. He had to be punished for the things that he had done, had to be shown what a little scrub he was for disgracing her mother. But no matter how hard she tries, Rin can't bring herself to her feet. She coughs blood, with glass dangling from her chin. She began to hear her own heartbeat slow as she feels her body getting heavier and heavier, till she can't move. The ground begins to shake with the footsteps of her fat-ass father, and she knew she wasn't going to make it. But she didn't care. She would make her father pay for her sins in this life or the next, no matter what. A dark fog rolled in, but not even it could quell her anger. Rin refused to rest, at least not yet. The darkness begins to whisper promises of revenge, and Rin accepts this offer, making an oath as she closes her eyes. I just want to give a huge thank you to anybody who made it to the end of the video, and if you haven't already, it would mean a lot if you hit that little thumbs up down below. Maybe even hit that subscribe button if you feel I've earned it. But if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to leave a comment, and have a great day, everybody. Peace out.